The first problem was the Ukrainian military and political leadership ordering the offensive to begin at all. Ukrainian Commanding General Valery Zelensky argued in a Washington Post interview that it pisses me off when he hears complaints about the lack of progress. Yet, in the same interview, he acknowledges that without being fully supplied for the offensive, these plans are not feasible at all. And he is right. But Zelensky had even more fundamentals against him. Ukraine also suffers from a chronic lack of air defense capacity, inadequate numbers of howitzers and artillery shells, insufficient electronic warfare systems, a dearth of missiles, and perhaps most crucial of all, barely 25% of the demining capacity needed. According to Newsweek, President Zelensky is caught in a bind. His long-awaited counteroffensive has so far proven underwhelming, as his troops are winning back slivers of land in the south and in the east of the country at a very high cost. Zelensky faces an impossible choice: to go all in and risk a costly failure, or to cut Ukraine's losses and accept a politically damaging defeat. It appears he has chosen the former. The Ukrainian Air Assault Forces finally have deployed their most powerful unit, the 2,000-person 82nd Air Assault Brigade, which is stacked with Marder and Striker fighting vehicles and Challenger 2 tanks, rolled into action around Robotyne in southern Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia Oblast, apparently in the last few days. The deployment is good and bad news for Kiev's long-anticipated counteroffensive. The 82nd Brigade and its sister air assault unit, the 46th Brigade, was some of the last major units that the Ukrainian General Staff was holding in reserve. In finally sending those formations into battle, the Ukrainians could significantly boost their firepower along one of the main axes of the counteroffensive, the one stretching 50 miles from Russian-occupied Robotyne to occupied Melitopol, just north of the Black Sea. However, as the author notes, if the Russians can hold their ground and endure what is likely to be a major but temporary surge in Ukrainian combat power, they might eventually find themselves in a position to strike back at the Ukrainians, once the surge brigades rotate off the front line without replacement. An article from an independent media outlet, The Pledge Times, reports on the Ukraine's liberation of Eurozyny in this way. After a tough fight, the Ukraine recaptured another village. However, the acid test could now await the counteroffensive against Russia. When Ukrainian soldiers entered Eurozyny on Wednesday the 16th of August, all civilians had already fled. No wonder. The fighting for the town in western Ukraine lasted a long time. According to a ZDF report, Ukraine used its artillery for days against the occupying forces from Russia. In the end, they benefited from the greater range and precision of Western weapons, according to Christian Molling, research director of the German Society for Foreign Relations. Eurozyny is the 11th village that Ukraine was able to liberate from Russian occupation in the counteroffensive. It is considered strategically important because it is on the road to the coastal city of Mariupol. The Ukrainian liberators still have about 90 kilometers to the Sea of Azov, a fact that led to some euphoria among Western observers. However, that was definitely exaggerated. It is premature to draw any conclusions for the further course of the war from the liberation of the place. But here's the important part. In addition, Ukraine's losses to liberate even small villages seem to be immense so far. In front of Eurozyny, the army had liberated the neighboring village of Staromayorsky, also in a tough fight. According to a report by Picture New Russian drone footage shows that Ukraine lost at least 31 armored vehicles, including 23 mine-protected personnel carriers from NATO countries. The wrecks could be seen in the fields. The depletion of Ukrainian equipment could, in turn, play into the hands of the Russians. The Kremlin celebrates every destroyed Western tank as a triumph, while Ukraine strives to quickly bring damaged tanks back to the front with mobile repair teams. It is still heavily dependent on the West and further weapons commitments, while Russia also relies on its own war production. Putin could therefore continue to rely on the time factor in the Ukraine war, and on the fact that Ukraine cannot withstand a long war of attrition, especially since Russia's first fortified defense lines are waiting for the Ukrainian troops further south of Urozhainy. It is an important test of how Ukraine can withstand these in the course of its counteroffensive. And just to put things in perspective, Urozhainy is a tiny village that had no more than 1,000 inhabitants prior to the liberation, and its main road stretches no more than 3 kilometers in length. Further, as we can see here, according to a Ukrainian map, Urozhainy, although the Russians have been pushed out, it's not yet colored in blue, which means it's still in the gray zone.
Wake up! Wake up! What the fuck is going on? Wake up! Wake the fuck up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Get up, get up, get up. Wake up. Wake. Wake up! We got hostiles nearby! Wake the fuck up!
So let's return to that crossroad that President Zelensky was facing, as articulated in the Newsweek article, whether he should go all in for this counteroffensive and risk a costly failure, or he should cut his losses and risk a politically damaging defeat. Having chose the former, the risks and the costs that await Ukraine and President Zelensky should they fail in this last and final thrust in an all-out counteroffensive could be fatal. And this is what Belarusian President Lukashenko makes out in this next video clip.
Специально нарисовал эту карту. Вот сейчас Россия перемелет вас там, живую силу и технику. Уже тех мотивированных, идеологически настроенных нациков, как их называли, нацменов, крепких этих людей идеологически, их нет, они все погибли уже. Кто здесь воюет уже? Тех, на кого вы на улицах поймаете и сюда привезете, они не подготовлены. Ну и немного военных. Они не справятся с этой машиной. Россия перестроилась. Россия сегодня на фронте новейшее оружие. Уже беспилотников хватает. Уже, совсем другая армия. И самое опасное, они, опять я не знаю, говорить вам или нет.
Говорить.
Они имеют 250 тысяч добровольческий корпус. Россия имеет 250 тысяч.
Которые еще не
добровольческие, которые сейчас подготовлены и в резерве. Вы понимаете, что такое 250 тысяч? На фронте сейчас у россиян меньше. Вот они сидят в обороне. Это не потому, что они не могут наступать. Не нужно. А вы идете, понимаете, как обколотые и выпившие. Вы идете наперевес, как в кино немцев показывают. Вы идете на эти баррикады. Но вы не доходите даже, это мы видим, и это так, вы не доходите даже до минных полей. Вас просто уничтожают тысячами. У вас 45 тысяч за время контрнаступа, за это время у вас 45 тысяч человек погибло и калеками ушли оттуда. 45 тысяч. Вот они обороняются. Потери у вас 1 к 8. 1 к 8 потери на фронте. И 250 тысяч резерва, вооруженные современнейшей техникой. Вот они вас тут перемелят, а потом сделают то, чего вы больше всего боитесь, руководство. Они вас отрежут вот на Молдову, на Приднестровье. Они вас отрежут. Что вы будете потом делать? А вот здесь поляки руки потирают, подталкивая американцами, они у вас отрежут Запад. У вас останется вот этот клочок, если останется.
As the Russians inch nearer and nearer to a total victory in this war, you can see the conviction in President Lukashenko and Putin's eyes when they speak now. It is the same conviction that you see in the Russian soldiers who defiantly defend against the Ukrainian onslaught in Zaporizhia and around Bakhmut. What is the inspiration, you might ask, for such valiant resistance on the battlefield? Well, as Ukrainian soldiers tell upon entering Nechkutnoye in the Zaporizhia region, in bloody fights against the Russian defenders. In one of the school halls, it was noted, written on the wall, "Welcome to Mordor. God is for Russia."